Hey everyone, so today I'm going to continue the teardown on this Subaru ej257. Had a head gasket failure, got it out of the car, started taking everything apart. Usually always document with pictures every step of the way. So I'm going to continue, but my only issue so far is drainage of the oils and the coolant coming out of the engine. I looked at the saddle tanks for these engine stands, and I was willing to spend the 40-50 bucks or whatever for it. They range up maybe up to 80-90 bucks, but this motor, because it's a flat 4, is wide, sticks out past the wheels of the stand. They also have a contour that comes in, so most likely as I'm pulling everything apart, you're going to get oil, coolant leaking out of this thing. I'd like to contain it rather than make a giant mess all over the floor and have to clean it up later. I happen to have this plastic container picked up from local home store, fairly cheap. It was like 15 bucks. So far it's worked good. Catching all the coolant coming out of this oil pump here, or water pump. So my thought was do a little garage engineering. I'm gonna build a nice little wooden platform just to set this thing on so I can turn it sideways. It's not gonna be wobbling all over the place, and I like to take care of that before I get any further on this thing, because as soon as I start pulling some of this stuff off, it's gonna be leaking all over the place. Check the fitment on this thing. I'm gonna put one on either side of this front bar as well to help hold it in place. But this thing will sit on there. Alright, now that we got this drip pan situation handled, we're gonna next take off this water pump elbow. 10 mil. Also gonna try to take this oil line off, see if I can just get it out of the way. I've already kind of broken this thing down. Got the motor out of the car. That was all before I had my camera. I didn't get a chance to take video of that, but got it out of the car. Wasn't too bad. It took me about a day taking my time, taking pictures, documenting everything, try to make it easier to put back together and get in the car. But I will have a video of this thing going back in, which is basically going to be the reverse order as if you were taking it out. I was pretty sure it had a head gasket failure. The motor was supposedly swapped. Oh, this is a coolant line for the oil cooler. The motor was supposedly swapped at like 100,000 miles, and the used one had about, I think, 60,000. So I ended up approximating that the swap motor had about 100,000 miles on it. I had it start to get kind of hot one day. Didn't overheat completely. I was able to kind of pull it off and let it cool down for a minute. But was getting bubbles in the coolant reservoir that were the overflow, and tried replacing the caps because I was told that was fairly possible. Air would be getting in there, causing bubbles, and could create an air pocket in the coolant system, which would make it get hot. Did that because it was fairly cheap. They're like 20 bucks each, for one for the radiator and one for the expansion tank that sits on top. Still had bubbles coming up in the overflow reservoir, and decided to just take it out, go ahead and replace the head gaskets while I had the motor out, break it down to short block, maybe even case halves, either replace it or see about rebuilding it, have it looked over. Looked at a few different options. So for now, I'm going to try to take the short block in. Fortunate I have out front not too far away, so I'll take it over them, have them disassemble the long block. They're going to look at everything and give me an idea of what's going on, and we'll go from there. So in the meanwhile, just going to get this thing broken down to a long block, and then get it on a pallet and get it over to them. So next, we'll take off these timing belt guides and line up the timing, make sure it's at top dead center. Got that mark up there, lined up that mark right there. Marks lined up. Marks lined up. Marks lined up, and that mark's lined up. Should be good to take the timing belt off. So first one we're going to take off is this one right here. That one was a little loose already. And put it all in there. haven't been yet that I do kind of want to take care of real quick. Let's get these coil packs off and get the spark plugs out. One thing I did notice taking this thing apart, all the hoses, the coolant crossover tube on top, you can see right here, definitely looks like coolant was getting out right here. It's all this oil and junk on top. Looks like it might have been coming out through there. But I would think if it was leaking, it would be coming out rather than air going in. But maybe I'm not right in that. Maybe there was air getting in there through there, and these head gaskets may be fine. But I've already taken it this far. I don't know how many miles this thing's got on it. It would just be an all-around better idea to have it looked over, place all this seal, all the gaskets, all these junk hoses. You can see this thing's all rusted. Inside of it there was like milkshake goo. So yeah, it's going to be better to have this thing all cleaned up. All new lines, possibly new turbo. Try to get it back to factory shape. Look at these plugs. Those are 14s. This is a 12, yes. First, we're going to try to get these cam gears off. Just got the company 23 tools in the mail, so put these to use today. See if we can make it work. Also picked up this flywheel locking tool just to have. I still have the flywheel on there, so when I take it off, it won't be an issue. Well, these are 5/16 right here.
camera died when I was taking off the crank sprocket, so there isn't really any instructions in the manual other than it says just to remove the crank sprocket once you get down to it. I've seen people heat them up. I'm sure they can be a real pain to get off. What I actually did was I got the screwdriver back here with slight pressure on this side, slowly tapping it with a rubber mallet. Once it started to move this side, just swap back to the other side, did the same thing till I got it to free up a little bit. Basically just pulled on it as I kind of gave it a little bit of some taps. Next thing we need to take off is tensioner bracket. It's these 3 12mm bolts. So it just pulls right off. Next, we're going to get the water pump off. Got these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then oil pump. There's a pressure relief on this thing. I believe that's it right there. So I'm going to take a look at the manual, double check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 mils. Isn't too bad. All right, I think that's everything off the front of the motor for right now. I'm going to turn this thing on its side next. I'll get this oil cooler off, get the oil pan off, take the pickup tube off, and almost be ready to get this thing out to the machine shop. I also got to get these motor mounts off too, but let's be quick. Just believe it says .24mm. Let's go that way with it. All right, so we got that line off. I'm going to take this motor mount off real quick. Spin this thing off. Next thing, I'm gonna get the oil pan off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That one looks like it's been backed off. 14 10mm bolts. I believe that is all of them. Service manual recommends an oil pan cutter. I have some razor blades. We'll see if we can make that work. Looks to be pretty clean in the bottom. Look at these 3 10mm. And this one. Oh. Down she goes. That's all right. Another 5 more 10mm. Should be. Make it easier on myself because I know I'm gonna drop one of these in there. This one hopefully not. This one most likely. This one's all good. I'll get this oil feed for the turbo off there. is this 14mm banjo, I think, and go ahead and take this thing off too, which is probably the same 24mm socket. $14mm 12. These 4 bolts off. I believe those are 14s. Take all these clutch bolts off. Already took the clutch off when I first got the motor out, but just left the flywheel on for the time being. Last thing, get this off. I'll make a couple mounts out of 2x4 to slide over the studs on the bottom, and I'll set that on the pallet and be ready to go. So the impact was not getting these flywheel bolts off. I put on this Company 23 flywheel locking tool, just mounting these two bell housing holes right there, holds it in place. It's going to take a little bit of force, but I think that's it. I'm going to get this on a pallet, take it over to Out Front Motorsports, and we'll see what they say.